Betrayed and crucified in Jerusalem, I traveled throughout Israel's countryside, teaching about my dad, my Father in heaven. We didn't have cars or motorcycles in those days, and my disciples and I could not afford horses, so we walked almost everywhere. One day I came to a city in Samaria called Sychar. I had just been in Judea, baptizing people with my disciples. We decided to go to Galilee, and we stopped at Sychar because I wanted to see the land that my ancestor Jacob had given to his son Joseph. My friends had gone into the city to buy food, but I waited by the well there. I was tired because of all that walking, and sat down to rest and reflect on my journey. I was remembering how Jacob had met his wife Rachel at the well. It was about noon.
Hi, I'm not used to speaking in large crowds. Actually, I'm not really used to crowds at all. I'm from Sychar in Samaria. Despite all the people in my city, most people didn't want anything to do with me, and I felt alone most of the time. As a woman, my job was to get water from Jacob's well for my family. Most of the other women came in the morning to get water, but I didn't. Those other women were no longer kind to me. I know it's because I had been married so many times, and the day I met Jesus, I was living with a man I wasn't even married to. I was known as the scandal of Sychar. The men liked having me around. I'm pretty and I worked hard. The women didn't like me, so I tried to do my chores when no one was around. So I usually came to the well when it was about noon. I was surprised. There was a man there, someone I didn't recognize. He wasn't from Sychar and his feet were dirty. He must be a traveler, I thought. It wasn't appropriate for me to talk with a man alone, so I proceeded to draw water. I remembered about how my ancestor Rachel met her husband Jacob at the well, but I pushed that thought out of my mind. Then, something strange happened.
Give me a drink.
I can tell right away by his accent that he's a Jew. Why is he talking to me? I'm used to getting attention from men, but it's not appropriate for a man to talk to a woman alone. How is it that you, a Jew, ask a drink of me, a woman of Samaria? Except for having the same ancestor and worshiping the same God, Jews don't share things in common with Samaritans.
I knew I was going to surprise her. In fact, I knew all about this woman. My dad in heaven had told me about her. I was here to teach her. If you knew the gift of God and who it is that is saying to you, give me a drink, you would have asked him, and he would have given you living water.
Living water? There's no spring running water around here, but maybe he knows of a fresh water spring near here. If I could take some fresh spring water back home, I might be a hero. Maybe the woman would be more kind to me. Sir, you have no bucket and the well is deep. Where do you get that living water? Are you greater than our ancestor Jacob, who gave us the well, and with his sons and flocks drank from it?
She doesn't understand. I'm talking about me and my Father's love for her. She doesn't understand, but she will. Everyone who drinks of this water will be thirsty again, but those who drink of the water that I will give them will never be thirsty. The water that I will give will become in them a spring of water gushing up to eternal life.
What a strange man. I think he's crazy, but he may know of a fresh water spring around here. Maybe he'll show me where it is. I have nothing to lose. I've already lost everything. My family, my friends, my self-respect. I'll play along with him to try to find this fresh spring water he's talking about. Sir, give me this water so that I may never be thirsty or have to keep coming here to draw water.
Go, call your husband and come back.
I have no husband.
You were right in saying, I have no husband. For you have had 5 husbands, and the one you have now is not your husband. What you have said is true.
I am shocked. All thoughts about a fresh water spring have left my mind. This Jewish man knows everything about me. He knows I've had 5 husbands. He knows I'm with another man and not married to him. But it is more and knows everything about me. He knows that, despite all the men I have been with, that I am so lonely. I feel so alone. So alone. The Samaritans are hated by the Jews. The women are not treated well by their husbands. And the way I have allowed myself to be used by men has garnered scorn by the other women in Sychar.
I know what she is thinking. Despite all those people she has allowed to use her, she has felt isolated from my Father in heaven. I know how she feels. My disciples, my best friends, don't always understand me. So many people come to me to be healed. So many crowds of people follow me. But though I am the Son of God, I am human too. I get scared, and I choose to isolate myself, sometimes like this woman has.
Before I spoke again, I remembered how God engineered an encounter between Isaac's servant and Rebekah at a well, and how Jacob met his future wife Rachel at a well. I thought stuff in the ancient Jewish Bible like that didn't happen anymore. But here it is, happening to me in this moment. This man is a prophet. Since he is Jewish, I must be careful lest he curse me. I have to know how to worship in a way that is pleasing to God. Sir, I see that you are a prophet. Our ancestors worshipped on this mountain, but you say that the place where people must worship is in Jerusalem.
She understands a little. My Father has helped her to understand a little. Woman, believe me, the hour is coming when you will worship the Father neither on this mountain nor in Jerusalem. You worship what you do not know. We worship what we know. For salvation is from the Jews. But the hour is coming, and is now here, when the true worshipers will worship the Father in spirit and truth. For the Father seeks such as these to worship him. God is spirit, and those who worship him must worship in spirit and truth. Does she understand? Does she know that all people are loved by my Father? Does she know that my Father, my Dad, desires zeal for him and truth for how they have behaved in a way that does not represent his image?
Spirit and truth? I have spirit, but I have not used it wisely. Truth, I tried not to be truthful to this prophet, and he saw right through me. But as I think about it, I have not been truthful to myself. I surround myself with people who distract me, who prevent me from realizing how isolated I am from my spirit, from my love for God. I know the Messiah is coming. When he comes, he will proclaim all things to us.
I am he, the one who is speaking to you.
My God, is he the Messiah? Just then his disciples came. They were astonished that he was speaking with a woman, but no one said, "What do you want?" or "Why are you speaking with her?" I dropped my water jar and ran back to the city. At first, like usual, people turned their heads when they saw me coming, pretended not to see me. But I grabbed them and made them listen. I said to the people, "Come and see a man who told me everything I have ever done. He cannot be the Messiah, can he?" They left the city and were on their way to him.
She came to understand me, and she brought people to faith. Despite how shamefully she has acted in her life and how scorned she has been by those who behaved badly toward her, she convinced many of who I am. Those more skeptical came to see me for themselves. When they arrived, they invited my disciples and me to stay. We stayed for 2 days. The woman sowed the seeds for me and my disciples among her people, and we have entered into her labor of evangelizing. During those 2 days, many came to believe in my Father's love for them, his grace, and his forgiveness.
My people spoke to me again. They welcomed me to eat with them, and the women invited me to their gatherings. Despite all the men I had had before, I had always felt isolated from the person God meant for me to be. After I encountered Jesus at the well, I knew that I was no longer alone, and that I never truly was. God was always with me. I just didn't know how to listen before. I'm Allison Santori, and I, like the Samaritan woman at the well, have felt isolation in my life from my friends. I guess you could say it started in middle school when I had kind of two different groups of friends, and as we went through high school, my two groups of friends started to spread apart. There was the one group that I had originally been friends with and was closer to, but the other group was more of the popular crowd. And so as time went on, I tried harder to stay with those people, but my schedule was very different from theirs, so I couldn't hang out with them as much as I liked, and I began to realize that I didn't really know them very well, and that even though they weren't mean to me and they liked me well enough, I wasn't really friends with them. It was kind of a shallow relationship. So as I realized that, I also realized that in trying to be friends with them, I had pushed away the people who were really my friends, that I had a deep connection with. And I didn't know what to do. I felt completely disconnected from all these people, even though I was surrounded by people. It was like I was alone. I started by praying to God, and I kind of poured out my feelings, which helped me feel a little better. And I talked to my mom and my sisters about it, and they helped me see that really the best thing to do was just go back to those people who were my true friends. And sure enough, they welcomed me right back into their group, and since then I've had a lot better friendships with them. So I too have felt isolated, but it can be worked through.
Like Allison, I've also felt the shadow of isolation sometimes. Now for me, my isolation from God and God's love came from trying so hard to be perfect. And my understanding of perfect was to be so consumed with helping everyone and not feeling good about myself if I ever said no to taking something else on. And I chose this isolation. But my isolation of taking on too many commitments ended when I remembered God's commandment to love my neighbor as I love myself. And I came to realize that I needed to love myself as much as I tried to love my neighbor. And I still struggle with that sometimes, that sense of taking on too much. But I think I've gotten better at it. But here's what I'd like to suggest to you, so that you don't fall into that shadow of isolation that the woman at the well, or Allison, or I have. First, identify someone in your life with whom you can talk openly and honestly about your life. And I suspect each of us here has a family member or a friend that will listen to us without judgment. At least that's my hope. And I want to ask you to make time to check in with that person each week, even if it is simply to say hello. Keep that trustworthy person close to you. Second, make sure to pray. Take time to reflect on your feelings of isolation or your experiences each week and share that with God. Now, if you don't pray every day, then I challenge you to pray for just 1 minute each week. 1 minute each week when no one else is around. And try to build up to praying every day. Time for just you and God. And finally, and this is a little bit harder, follow the example of the woman at the well. Despite her feelings of unworthiness, she became an evangelist. Despite her isolation, she still became a witness to how Jesus knew everything about her. She shared her encounter with him. Jesus knows everything about each of us. And I invite you to share your encounter with him with others. Now, you can start by sharing your encounter with God with people you know in church. But don't stop there. Share your encounters with God with those you know who don't go to church. Invite them to come with you sometime. Tell them that they're not alone, that God is always with them and loves them. When you bring the light of Christ to others, you help to dispel the shadows of isolation they may be experiencing. Like that light of Christ. Friends, we may choose to isolate ourselves from God's image that resides in each of us. But know that we're never truly alone. When you leave here today, go with the knowledge that God is always with you.